welcome to I Caught It on Audio. This is Water Cooler Chat episode 19, The Rings of Power, Season 1, Episode 8.
Hello and welcome to another episode of I Got It on Audio, a 64 Tacos podcast. Today we are continuing our Water Cooler Chat series on the Amazon Prime show, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Today we will be talking about the season finale for Season 1, which is the 8th episode. Got a quick little synopsis for you here. Season 1 finale, new alliances are forged.
That was too long.
That's the synopsis from the official Amazon Prime website.
Too much information.
Yeah.
I kind of zoned out on that one.
Yeah. It was, yeah. Well, I could mispronounce a whole bunch of names in addition to it. If you'd like, I'll just cut it from a previous episode. And at any rate, so we start this one off with the big reveal on who the stranger is.
Right.
And then we almost immediately find out maybe that's not the truth. They tease that the stranger is Sauron. Because
I liked the tease, but I didn't for 1 minute think it was right.
I thought red herring from the first when they revealed it in like the first 3 sentences or whatever. Right. I was like, nah, that's not it. That's not right.
It got me at first, but then as soon as they went to the elves and Hellbrand, I was like, oh wait, no. Hellbrand is changing very quickly here. That was not what was actually happening. Okay. And then they basically explained that later on we come back to the stranger and we learn that he is not in fact Sauron, but rather he is one of the Ishtari. And we're not told specifically which one. And Dan, maybe you can clear this up so the Ishtari are all Maiar, right?
Yes.
And then they are specifically the wizards. So it's Saruman, Gandalf, Radagast, and then the 2 blue wizards. And that is the whole Ishtari, right?
I'm pretty sure that's all the Istari. I could be missing something. I'm not the world's foremost expert or anything, but I believe that's it.
What's Sauron?
Sauron is also a Maiar.
He's a Maiar, but not an Istari.
Yes. The Istari were created by the Valar basically to help battle Morgoth or Sauron, I believe, actually. Because I don't believe they actually appear in Middle Earth till the Third Age. I mean, that's not what happened here in our episode, of course. Assuming that, he is an Istari, which we haven't. He could be wrong, I suppose, but the last line of the episode kind of gave it away for sure which Istari he is, they were basically sent not to oppose directly Sauron, but to help guide the children of Iluvatar, which are the elves and the humans, and then the dwarves, to fight against him. So they were sent to be in contrast with Sauron, basically.
And just so we don't get any comments, the dwarves are not directly the children of Iluvatar.
Right.
They were created by a different of the Valar.
Yeah, the most dwarvish of the if you want to do that backwards of the big Valar, Alway, I think, made them because he was so enamored with the children of Iluvatar, and then Iluvatar chose to give them life because they were basically like meat puppets, so to speak.
Right.
After he made them, they didn't have like souls or function. And then Iluvatar said, "Okay, I'll let you, these children of Alway, I'll let you go ahead and I'll give them life as well." So they're the sort of third. They're slightly different, but effectively very similar.
That basically sums up the stranger. They were given a little tease that he's Sauron. Then it was quickly discovered he is actually an Istari, and in the end, Nori goes on with him because he's got to go on his journey still.
Well, and one neat thing that they did was basically the 3. I don't know if those are supposed to be Maiar, the three culty, like white
The
robed
Wanderers.
elfin people.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were supposed to be. I can't really put my finger on it, but they through magic, which that means they have to be some sort of Maiar.
Right.
Or like old allies of Sauron, because they're looking for Sauron and they think that it might be him. So they basically use magic to reveal, like pull the veil from his mind, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So he's no longer confused and doesn't know how to use his power and everything else. And he starts speaking coherently and with understanding of the world, not complete understanding. He still wants to go east where they were going to take him because he wants to learn more. But he turned them into moths, I think, right? Like when he destroyed them.
Yes.
So he basically was able to say, no, I am, with urging from Nori, I am not what you tell me. What you tell me I am good. Okay, great. And then so the veil is lifted, but he still doesn't know everything. Sort of like partial amnesia, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, he's speaking very much like Gandalf after that point, in riddles, as Aragorn says in when Gandalf the White comes back in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, you still speak in riddles, that's what he reminded me of.
Yeah.
And then of course his last line his last line is always follow your nose, which echoes the Fellowship of the Ring when they're stuck in Moria and the Gandalf says the air smells freshest this way, which is exactly what he's getting at. So
yeah,
that's it's early for Gandalf, and part of me is like, well, no, he doesn't show up yet. But also part of me is like, it's kind of nice to have Gandalf in the series, I suppose. And I don't know. Like, I guess I don't have a big problem. Let's see what they do with it,
And it helps, give some helps to give some reference to why Gandalf has an affinity for the hobbits, at least later on.
That's a great point.
He when he arrived, he was, he became himself with the Harfoots. So I thought that was a neat thing.
Yep.
So that is resolved.
I want to go back to those cultist people for a second.
Sure.
And I felt like they were something from the past, like, because for when they flash to him, they look very skeletal or undead. When Gandalf was holding the staff, and he's like, I see you for what you are. He called them shadows. So I thought they were somehow like magic remnants from the last war.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know what they are, and that's feasible as any other explanation that I can think of for sure.
Yeah, when he kind of obliterated them, and it was their ghost or their spectral selves that was left. They kind of gave a nod to the Witch King, and I don't know.
That's what I thought too.
I don't know if there's any connection there.
Another possibility is, and this is in the same vein, but the effect of Galadriel when she's faced with her choice when Frodo offers her the ring.
Yeah,
that's sort of like white, sort of, and for both the Witch King and Galadriel, it was the temptation of power. And of course, the Witch King succumbed along with all the other humans to become the Nazgul, but Galadriel was able to get past it. But yeah, it's that same sort of a white, almost ghosty, skeletal kind of effect.
Celebrimbor and Halbrand learn how to use the mithril to make an alloy, right? Like together they do the research and they test and all that stuff, and now we have the ability to stretch the mithril. They were originally going to make a crown, right?
Yeah, for Gil-galad, the king, but he doesn't like that idea, which is a point in his favor,
Yeah, absolutely.
So then they're going to make two, and I don't know if they were at that point saying crowns or circlets or rings or what their idea was, but of course in the end it became three, which we knew where it was going, if you know anything about the Rings of Power.
Yep, the 3 rings for the elves. Yeah, I thought that was neat. The way they did that, it was cool. The little montage of crafting the rings and showing the intricacy of the jewelry and all that stuff.
Yeah, and also the Forge of Celebrimbor was a super cool set with the skylight opening up, and I like that when they spun the ores to extract the gold and silver from each other, and it felt. I mean, I don't know anything about actual blacksmithing or forging of anything, so I don't know. It could have been all BS for all I know, but it was cool to see them look at the process closely. And at least be somewhat convincing.
What did you guys think of Galadriel? Do we feel like she completed an adequate arc for season 1?
For season 1? Sure. Yeah. Matt, why don't you go ahead and give your thoughts, though? I've been kind of talking all over you today.
She's fine. She did a fine season 1 arc. And she contributed at the end with the if we're going to do these rings, we should make 3.
Yes.
So she did contribute to this. So she's still not one of my favorite characters, but I like her more than I did at the beginning of the series.
Yeah, I think she's come around for me. I didn't have a huge problem with her until she didn't start making any moves. Episode 3 and 4 were like, come on, she's got to move forward somehow and actually become Elven. But I feel like she kind of tempered out towards the end there and found a good balance at the end of this season, and it seems to be moving in the right direction, certainly as we go forward. And I'm excited to see where they take her in season 2.
Excellent job, Dan, giving the call that Halberd was Sauron.
Yeah, yes. I feel like it had the most clues.
Yeah.
Well, and the hand got tipped pretty hard once we were at the forge, and he's like, oh, have you thought about spreading the metal with other metals? And he seemed to have all the answers. I'm like, oh.
Constantly prompting. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was good. It was a perfect, it was good that there was just enough throughout the season that if you were really paying attention, you would pick it up, but not everyone did. I'm certain of that. And then when the reveal came, it wasn't just a bam punch in the face with it either. It was kind of, oh wait, he's making these. The more you know about the history, the sooner you pick it up, but you're gonna get it eventually that he is in fact Sauron. And I thought they did an amazing job with that.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty good. And also the cool thing about it, I mean, like I said, I was pretty sure, because why would you have him, like, he just laid so many clues. If you're like a complete neophyte to the story, you would be like, could be stranger, could be, you wouldn't know for sure. But the more you know about it, the easier it is to tell. But what I thought,
you might not even know what the word neophyte means.
It's true. That's where Neil comes over to your house and he wants to fight you.
He wants to fight you.
I think.
That's what I understand it to mean.
But what I thought was cool was, while there was still doubt, the whole process of the episode 6 with the big battle and everything was strange and kind of, a little up in the air. But then when you realize, when he comes out and he's like, oh, I'm looking for Celebrimbor, and Celebrimbor is like, well, I am here. Shouldn't you, he's like, shouldn't you be in bed? And he's moving just a little gingerly, but it basically, it's pretty clear, I think, that he allowed himself to be injured, or faked his injury, or at least faked how hurt he was, because he knew, Galadriel would bring him to where he needed to go, because he was kind of stuck as the king of the humans. Why would he leave? Well, he created a reason for Galadriel to bring him to the elves, and then once he was there, he recovered rather quickly. That's exactly where he wanted to be. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing. And let you think back and go like, oh, okay, I see how he worked every step of the way. I see how he worked it.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. He got Galadriel to do everything he needed to be accomplished. And there was a great scene between the two of them by the river there, where he's like, she says, you did this and you did this and you did this, and he's like, no, those were all your things, and it just, I thought that was an awesome reveal. I loved it.
Yeah. And he's like, I never lied. I told you I got it off a dead man, which was true. He probably killed the man himself, but
very likely.
But his protestation's like, no, I can't do it. And I've done evil in the past. And her's like, oh, you just got to look forward. He's like, well, plausible deniability. I didn't lie at all. Technically, I didn't tell you the truth, but I didn't lie either. And so, yeah, I thought they did a really good job with that. And I bet people who know nothing about anything when it comes to the story, who are newcomers, or maybe have just seen the movie, or the movies, the previous 2 trilogies, or maybe not seen it at all, would have really enjoyed that. I enjoyed it enough. You know, it's kind of fun to have doubt and uncertainty, but I thought they handled it pretty well. I don't have any real complaints about it.
Then the Numenorians return to Numenor. I think this is one of the final scenes, right? All the flags are black, all the banners are black to indicate that the king has died.
It wasn't all the way to the end, and I'll tell you why. Because there was an interesting cut that cracked me up. So the king was dead in his chamber in his tower, and I was like, oh, okay, yes. I think his name is, I think in the books it's Tar Palantir, the king, as the Farseer, which is kind of the same source as how the seeing stones, the Palantir or orbs, come from, which is interesting, but they don't really talk about that. But so he's dead. He's in his tower. We've been seeing him all along, and there's this, there's a little bit to that story, and then immediately cuts to the Elven city where they're working on trying to use pressure to hold the ore together. And for a second there, I thought we were still in Numenor. And when there was that explosion, I thought they just blew the king up. Like that was the traditional. I was like,
well, I thought the king was. I thought the same thing. I thought that the explosion was in that tower with the king, but I thought that Skeevy politician guy.
Al-Pharazôn, I think his name is. Pharazôn.
Did he blow up the king?
Yeah. I did not recognize the city quick enough, and I was like, "Holy crap! They blew him up." No, they did not blow him up. Well, we did get a wrinkle though in the Numenor story, and it's that of Isildur's sister, Elendil's daughter.
Yes,
is chosen to be one of the artists to draw the king in order to make his, I don't know if it was for his sort of coffin.
His statue.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then the king wakes up, kind of mistakes her for his daughter, and then shows her the Palantir, the seeing stone. So she's definitely going to be part of the plot going forward, because she's presumably seen some stuff that will dictate some of the upcoming plot with Numenor.
Yeah, because they never resolved that, right?
I don't think they gave us anything.
I kept waiting for her to come out or something, and just I guess she's still in the room.
No, they never resolved that one.
No, she blew up when the king died.
Yeah, she was in the explosion. So.
It was a bit of a dead end, a story dead end there. I don't know what they were thinking.
Oh, maybe it's the orb that blew up when she went and looked in it.
Yeah, this all makes sense. And then they did a weird cut to to where they were making the trying to make the rings, and yeah, weird decision. But hey, listen, I gotta assume they have a plan.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, eventually. 4 seasons later.
So, favorite character for the whole first season.
I think I like the Stranger. Halbrand's also really good because of how they handled it. They showed. I thought that it was nice that he's always told the truth. Yeah. In his Halbrand the Fair mode. So he doesn't realize that when Galadriel asks him, or when he says, when Galadriel asks him, rule or heal, he says, I don't see a difference. I think that's just a blind spot for him. He genuinely is the only way I can heal the world. The only way I can get forgiveness is to heal the world. And this is how I will do it, through absolute power. Then I can do it. I can fix everything. I like how they handled that part of him. I just like the performance of the guy who plays the Stranger. But Halbrand and the Stranger were the 2 most interesting characters. So that's 1A and 1B for me.
How about you, Matt?
I think my favorite thing in this whole series is the friendship between Elrond and the dwarven guy. Durin. I think that's my favorite, interactions and all that for the whole thing. If I was to pick a single character, though, it'd be Adder.
Okay.
He's good, too.
He was good.
There's a lot of high points in this series, and both of those are good. All 3 of those characters you mentioned, and Durin's wife, Disa, is really good, too.
I love her, too.
She's good, yeah. Anytime the 2 of them are on the screen, Durin and Disa is a fun time.
What about you, Dave?
I'm going to go Nori. She's the Harfoot. There's something wonderful about the way they've portrayed them in this series. I love the nomadic nature of them and how they're, they're just no nonsense. We gotta keep moving, but they're also at the same time somehow lighthearted and fun. And then I think Nori just exemplifies all of the good of the Harfoot, like to the max. And when she's in the scene, it's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to see what her and the Stranger's adventures. Or can we call him Gandalf now? I don't know yet.
Let's just call him the Stranger. I don't know. We can call. I guess you can call him whatever you want. They haven't established that for sure.
They
but
could always pull a
second trick
where it's like a precursor, and so they have the ability to kill him off.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, for me, it's Nori. I like the Strangers, especially the Stranger coming full circle is really cool. The dwarves are always exciting. The way they handled Halbrand's arc was phenomenal. There's something about Nori that just always fun. Every second she was on the screen, I enjoyed it.
Now, we didn't get anything from either the Arondir and Theo and his mother, whose name I can't quite remember. Bronwyn? Yeah, Bronwyn. And we didn't get anything from the dwarves. Where do you think those are at going into next season?
Well, the dwarves are gonna have a struggle between. It's gonna be a political struggle between Durin and the other dwarf lords, I think. I don't know what's gonna happen with the Southlanders, though. That's gonna be interesting to see.
Well, at some point, there's gonna have to be some reason for other rings to be made, right? Because we still have to give them to the dwarves and humans.
Yep. Yeah, we've made 3 of the 20 rings that are going to be made. Of course, the one ring will be last and will be done by Sauron later on.
Mount Doom. Yeah, and the elves make all of the rings, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, all but the last one.
Right.
Yeah.
All but the one ring.
Right, so maybe that'll be part of the friendship of Elrond and Durin. There'll be perhaps a gift, or they'll work together on, they'll have to get more mithril, I suppose, if they're going to make more rings. Yeah. If we're assuming that all the rings are made out of a mithril alloy, which I don't know if that's true or not in the books. I never really thought about that or came across that, but perhaps it is. There's this kind of sense there. So that makes sense, and I'm sure they're going to try to, when they're trying to forge alliances between the humans and the other children, then it'll be we're going to give the rings to the king so they can become more powerful. I don't know how they're going to do that, but I mean there's certainly lots of ways they could go about it. So I think I feel like we're on track. That's for sure. Oh, the only other thing I wanted to mention about Galadriel is the one thing she's missing for me is warmth.
Yeah.
I thought that Cate Blanchett did such a great job of being scary, otherworldly, but still very warm. Now,
yeah, well, when she gives when she's presenting the gifts, and then all Gimli wants is one thread of her hair, it's like, oh.
Yep. She just does such an amazing job. It was going to be difficult for any actress to sort of nail that. And listen, there's still time. She could be holding that back from her performance, because at this point, Galadriel's a bit cold and calculating and wrong-headed, which is okay. Again, like we talked about this.
Yeah, she's been hardened by war and hate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we've made some progress, I would agree. But what I also think is strange is she knows that Halbrand is Sauron and clearly wants the rings made. I mean, at the moment when Celebrimbor says, do we stop or do we go ahead? And she says yes, I think because she wants to save the elves so they can stay, perhaps for her own reasons, because she wants to fix things. Elrond figures out something's going on when he finds the scroll, but she hasn't told anybody. So that's where I wonder, how is this going to work with Halbrand distributing the rings? So as Sauron, when some people know who he is, why wouldn't she tell everybody? Maybe she's just embarrassed.
It's going to be interesting to see where they go with that.
But all my complaints are solvable. I'm curious to see how they do it. And maybe they won't. Maybe that'll be a thing that I won't like about the show. But none of it is dire, like, nope, I don't like this at all. It's all like, Okay, well, I guess it depends how you handle it. Let's see what happens going forward.
So our total runtime here for these 8 episodes is roughly the same as the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy. I'm pretty sure for the three of us, the Hobbit trilogy is lower than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Where would you put this 10 and a half hours worth of runtime in that, with those other two in mind?
For me, it's right on par with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and the Hobbit trilogy is like, we sweep that under the rug. That didn't happen. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, and that, like, this is storytelling that I appreciate more because it's a little slower and it's more character driven, where the Lord of the Rings is a lot more action and a lot more higher stakes, which is still a great story, but I like them both for different reasons.
How about you, Dan?
I think I agree with Matt. I know that you have an affection for The Hobbit. You know, if it was watching it with Jack or just, you know, you like it more for whatever reason, which is totally fine. I mean, some people like The Hobbit. It's interesting because the Lord of the Rings trilogy definitely added stuff, got stuff wrong, changed stuff for dramatic effect, added in some romance. You know, it did some stuff that was contrary to the books, which is not what, you know, the current people that hate this series would have you believe. They would tell you it's perfect, which of course it is as a movie, not as a direct adaptation of a
Right.
series of books. I thought it's the Lord of the Rings trilogy is super amped up. But it was such a thrilling experience as an action adventure movie. It did very little wrong. I loved it, and it's definitely different than the books, but I'm okay with that. I did not like the tone of The Hobbit. I feel like the roughly the tone of the Lord of the Rings movies matched the books. I feel like they completely missed the tone of The Hobbit, the book itself, when they made the Hobbit trilogy. They just made another Lord of the Rings trilogy. And that's why I don't like it. There's definitely great moments in it. There's a few glaring things that annoy me, but
all right.
It was one of my
Senator. Can you please address the question though?
Right. Yeah.
How do you feel about this series?
I've been advised to plead the fifth. No, my feeling is it's in the middle. There's something magical about I just feel like Peter Jackson's a better filmmaker, and he was at his very best when he made that. I can't complain about that much in the series. It just was, and there were some great moments. It just missed a little bit of the magic. It's just the first season, so I'm okay with that. And yeah, for me, The Hobbit is the gap between The Lord of the Rings and The Rings of Power is much less than the gap between The Rings of the Power and The Hobbit for me.
For me, as you guys know, the Hobbit is not as bad as, I don't think it's as bad as you guys think it is. I can see the joy and the fun in it. It did not need to be 10 and a half, 12, 14 hours long, however it wound up being. This is definitely better than that. And I don't think it's quite up there with the original trilogy, Lord of the Rings trilogy. But I feel like if they're allowed to see this story out to the vision that they have for it, I think it has the potential to, as a full series, be better than the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship, and all those movies.
Could
but
be
it's not there yet.
They have some work to do, I would say, for sure.
Yep.
But I don't think it's completely out of the question. But so did you say you thought it was in between and basically
in
second?
Between, yes,
okay.
Second.
You just have The Hobbit a little closer than we do.
Yeah. Like if Lord of the Rings is a 10, Rings of Power would be an 8, and Hobbit would be a 6 or 7, or Rings of Power would be an 8 or 9. Whereas you guys, I'm guessing Hobbit is a 1 or negative 5.
No, it's not that bad. I was just disappointed because my expectations were high. If I'd never read The Hobbit and it wasn't like the book that the first fantasy book along with Narnia that I ever read, I wouldn't have I wouldn't care as much about the fact that the tone was off. For me, it's probably a 5. I just, I just had such high expectations. I had the Matt disease where I expected it to be great, and it greatly disappointed me. Not because it was terrible, but because it was so different than what I was hoping for.
All right.
But yeah, I would say if the Lord of the Rings, I'm going to give it say a 9. I would give the Rings of Power probably a 7.5, and the Hobbit maybe a 5, maybe a 4.5 or something like that.
Any final thoughts?
No, I'm happy that they didn't blow it, and I'm looking forward to more seasons.
I agree. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to more.
Me too. I'm really looking forward to more. I have, like I said, I have high hopes for this. They did not disappoint. And on that note, we will wrap up this episode and this series of our water cooler chats. You will be able to find the previous 6 episodes of this discussion wherever you found this one, if you haven't already. And if liking or subscribing is a thing that your service offers, please do that.
I caught it on audio.